Good afternoon. I'm Gavin Colborne from Little Forest, and welcome to my talk on web chaos to institutional knowledge, governing the university web estate at scale for AI Public Sector Week. So I hope you're having a great conference so far. Today I'm going to talk to you about a challenge that we've been working with a number of public sector customers and organizations, which is these massive sprawling web estates that you all own. We are now sort of many decades into the internet, and what's happened for most organizations is that we have month by month, year by year, decade by decade, created so many small little microsites on top of our main site that we've then had to sort of re-platform, not once, but twice, but three times and then more. And we've created multiple redirects all over the place. And there's so much digital litter now in every organization that we see. And it's really what I'm here to talk to you today about is the work that we're doing with leading institutions to address that challenge. I'll talk very briefly just about the challenge a little bit more as well, and then we'll have a deep dive into the kind of techniques, reportings, methodologies, and benefits that you can get from putting your arms around this massive web estate and attempting to govern it really well and really properly. It's a challenge that I personally love to work on with customers, and I think it's a great up and coming area in industry. I know that it's a massive challenge to run even one website. That website might only be a few hundred or a few thousand pages, but it tends to be a full-time job for even a large team for a number of years because there's so many demands. The website has become so important to our institutions that we have all of our customers go there. We've got all of our press releases go there. The internal pressure to get the information out accurately and a timely way to our customers is crucial. And so we as people delivering websites and web content, web pages, web experiences really get a lot of pressure to just manage even their main site. So the thought of trying to manage something further, so discovering that you actually have like 75 sites, or in many institutions and public sectors cases, you might have like 300 sites or 823 sites. It's quite incredible how big and sprawling these web estates are now. Of course, behind those sites is also then content management and other platforms, application management platforms in various states of association with each other. So it might be that you have made a technical decision to be on a certain type of platform, and that is on most of your sites, but actually it's different versions, and that introduces its own kind of challenges. Being in public sector, we also need to have strict governance around our standards of the experience. And so we need to make sure that our sites and our experiences are accessible, that they apply information security, and they are well governed. So we really apply, privacy. And now with the challenge that's coming in of AI, we want to make sure that the content is out there, that's structured, that's accurate, so that the AI will give as accurate an information as an experience to our users. And that whole new burgeoning section is called AEO and GEO, or AI optimization. That also comes into kind of the picture here, as well as web sustainability. So the web sustainability is, how do we make our websites as good for the planet? How do we make them efficient with carbon? And so we'll also talk a little bit about that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen, and we'll have a deep dive into some of the kind of reporting that we look to and advise, and some of the methodologies that we advise around how to manage your web estate and govern your web estate at scale. So really, this is a massive area. I'd encourage you to really take it on board and look at it now as something that is possible to achieve. We work with a number of leading institutions who have been doing this for a number of years and really applied some excellent methodologies and gotten better and better at managing an entire web estate. So what I'm going to do here is use a bit of our product and our roadmap as well to talk through the kind of methodology, the kind of reporting that I believe will help you to manage your web estate in the best possible way. So one of the first things we want to do is we want to take your core website, and we want to run what we call a vertical and a horizontal discovery on that site. What that will do is it will open up a lot of websites for us. So we might find something like several thousand DNS entries for the top level domains that you own and the subdomains that you own. A vertical discovery is if you own publicsector.com and you also own publicsector.ac.uk. Those are two top level domains that we then will do what we call horizontal discovery on, which is diving into all the subdomains of those top level domains. From that data, we test all the sites for you, and we get to what we call the evergreen websites. The evergreen websites are the ones that you really care about, that are your customer facing, that are your core, that really are reflective of your institution. Obviously, to be compliant, one of the really kind of best, quickest, easiest things to do is to look through this list once you've done the discovery and identify which sites you can actually archive, which sites you can close down, which sites you can put behind firewalls. So that might be content that's now old and out of date. Perhaps the owners have left, perhaps the areas of the business have even moved on and closed down. So those would be great to identify and to then archive away as quickly as possible. What we want to do is get this to a working number, something much more manageable. So if you start out and realize you've got 500 sites, we would like to get that number down to like a tenth of that size, like 50 sites. And those 50 sites, you then start to monitor and engage with measurement and keeping compliance and improving the customer experience of. So another key point in terms of getting that number down is looking for development sites, looking for test sites, looking for QA staging sites, all of those kind of areas where you may find 12 sites, you might find 73 sites, which are all development, and putting them into a bucket and then deciding what to do with those. And this is where really what we provide, which is a web registry, is such a useful tool, because I'm sure all of you have a spreadsheet somewhere or multiple spreadsheets that list the websites that you own or that you know about. And that's a great place to start. But from a spreadsheet, we see many challenges in that. What's the master copy? How to keep it up to date? If you run automated testing, the data in the spreadsheet gets out of date very quickly. And so we really have created a SaaS product, which is the web registry online that is shared. It's a single source of truth for people to log into and add notes, add comments, tag sites, run data automatically, and get the information really centralized so people can be on the same page about putting their arms around and governing this entire web estate. So I'll just show you what like a list of your sites would look like. We would recommend having something like a search, identifying what is new. So we tend to run what we call a weekly discovery, and we'll identify any sites that we've found in the last few days and flag them for you in the registry, because typically with those, you would need to examine them, see are they appropriate? Should these sites have been kind of created? Should they be rather used on some other area of our web estate? And indeed, then who should own these sites? And you'll see here we've got an owner field. This is probably the first step then in managing your web registry and your web estate, is identifying the department that own the site. So you look at the content of the site, and from that you start to understand the topics and then the departments. This is actually great to use automation like AI around analyzing the content at scale and auto bucketing the topics and then suggesting the department based on the list of departments that you have. From the department area, you can get down to the individual ownership area, if you like, as well. We would recommend the ability to kind of add tags. And so you might decide that this admissions portal is a priority site, so you might tag it as priority. You may also identify that actually Emily is a business owner, but you've now also recently discovered that Rachel Thompson looks after the content, and the technical team is actually run by Alex. And so you might have now your small team of owners. What's interesting about once you start to capture owners across your estate is that really you can start to build a community of people. And this, I think, is the most kind of rewarding area of the work that we do. Site owners are different categories, as we've seen, like business, marketing, technical, content, analytics owners, etc., accessibility owners. But they all often have very similar needs, and those needs will be things like they need support, they need training, they need help, really, in all sorts of aspects. So they need budgets. And so it might be helpful for your organization to look to start to build that community, start to work out and strategize how you communicate with that community. How do you build that community up? Maybe you can do something on a monthly basis where you have a webinar and you invite them all, you present on a relevant topic to them, and get them to present to each other, get them to network together, get them to help each other. And I think that's really the most fantastic area of this web estate discovery work that we do. Another super idea is on each of the sites that you invite people to have the ability to comment. So Rachel here said, please ensure securities reviews done by the end of the year. And Alex has greatly gone ahead and scheduled it. But I can see this is over a year ago. So I can now sort of come back and ask something like, please can we redo the security review, as this is a year old now. And that keeping this information on the central page in the same place rather than all in different emails really helps you to confidently manage your web estate. Another great technique we see is to schedule reviews of sites. And so you might know that the content owner, Sarah, and you might have agreed with her, why don't we get together at the end of April and review this basic content quality review for 2026. And what that will do is then that will send you and Sarah an email when we come up to April 30th, remind you of that review that you're going to do together. What I'm showing you here is just really a set of techniques that are very simple and straightforward, but really help to centralize your web estate governance and management. There's a kind of lovely visualization. We recommend taking screenshots of all the home pages of the sites that you have. And we have this kind of idea of like a cover flow, because we take in a lot of information visually. And so we can see kind of like the branding, maybe the age of the site, often the platform that it's on. Visually, a lot of those things come through very quickly when we look at the sites themselves. And it's also really interesting, actually, from a kind of like a historical web archaeology type idea, to look through and really see the history of our institution and the breadth of our institutions. It's an enjoyable thing. We recommend creating like an inventory across all of these areas so that you can see what assets make up the web estate that you have as well. And so then you could kind of click through and see like all the images across your web estate, or all the PDFs and so on. We also recommend doing automated monitoring for things like accessibility, for security, for privacy, for web sustainability. And then an interesting new area, if you're in healthcare, if you have any healthcare content, is sort of HIPAA compliance. I know this is more of a US standard, but actually it's helpful for all healthcare. It covers off things like, does your content have personally identifiable information, or are you asking for protected health information? These are really useful things to understand because from a compliance perspective, we need to treat this content in its own way. Another kind of really up and coming area is sustainability. And what we do with sustainability is we want our sites to be as green and sustainable and as good for the planet as possible. So there's this idea of measuring the carbon emissions or the CO2 per page, which is based on the weight of the page. The more content and particularly kind of rich content like images and videos there is in a page, the more bandwidth that's going to use, the more uh, compute power that's going to use both on the server and on the client. And it's actually going to be using more electricity, more energy, so it's going to be using more carbon. And so you can rate this now based on your carbon emissions and start to work out how to trim down and optimize for sustainability as well. What I love about all these standards, like accessibility, like security, like sustainability, is they all play into the same direction. If you improve your site for accessibility, you're actually also improving it for sustainability, for SEO and AEO as well. What AI optimization likes is structure. So the more structured you have your content, the more the AI is going to enjoy and promote your content in the same way that SEO does that. Another great thing to track is like broken links or spelling errors as well. And broken links an oldie but a goodie. And it's important to look to see the trend with this kind of information. How are we doing over time? It's one thing to know that you've got 247 broken links today, but it's a better thing to know that maybe a couple of weeks ago you had over 300, and so the team are making improvements. And so you want to really be tracking quality measurements like that. And then things like spelling as well. Spelling's nice and easy because everyone understands it. So it's often a good place to start when you're looking to roll out quality management into your culture, into your organization. You can see that, you know, the idea of improving their spelling is just easy and gonna obviously make a good improvement to your user experience. Um, what we also encourage people to do is put their sites into departments or units and organizations if need be. Also to categorize their sites into the type of site it is, the site purpose, and also the site audience, and also the site priority. You might find that you've definitely got a few sites that are very critical. You've got some that are very important, some that are standard, and some really that are probably legacy and need archiving. And you want to be able to tag these sites and then click through and really see which of those are falling into that category. So another thing I want to talk about is how web estate management is now moved from an almost impossible task to something that's really become possible, even if you've got hundreds of websites. And something that is really helping with that, obviously, is AI. The ability to chat with the data that you have. Once you've captured that data and done the discovery, the ability to chat with it through AI is fantastic. So you can really sort of ask questions here. How many pages do you talking about everything? So you could really ask anything of the AI, but it's a great area to start to discover and have the conversations with and build the reports dynamically using the AI. We've got some examples here as well. What would you like to know about your web estate? And we've categorized those into things like accessibility, privacy, security, brand. Brand is really interesting as well, but also ownership. So like which sites don't have an owner assigned, or show me all the sites owned by a marketing department, or which pages have outdated revenue figures. Where is our mission statement incorrectly stated? Um, how many broken links do we have on our research sites, or which sites are the most WCAG errors? And so this ability to chat with the data to understand and interrogate it in this way is really appealing, I believe. I want to show also this idea here that what we can do is we can add documentation such as an annual report or a similar kind of document that has very thoroughly checked information. We can scan it for key messages and bring out those messages such as, who is the CEO, who's the CFO, and what's the contact information that's absolutely correct for, general inquiries, legal inquiries, what is like your mission, vision, values, the financial data. And what's interesting about having these key messages, which are accurate and up to date, is we can then use the crawlers to go out and find content that is out of compliance with the key messages that you have outlined. And so you can then see that there are pages here with an old board statement, pages with a department that no longer exists, pages that are talking about carbon figures in conflict with the latest reports. And I think this is a super helpful area to use technology to look into improving the accuracy and compliance of our content. One other super idea to do is have a code search across your web registry, across your web estate. And so you might want to look for things like your analytics codes, your people's names, addresses, telephone numbers, services that you have. And if there's an update to them, you can look and see and find which pages have that content and code on them and which maybe need updating or slightly out of date. Or if you've got a component that you know has an accessibility error and you want to know which websites it is, you can take that code and paste it in here and find the sites that it is on. Final thing I wanted to talk about quickly is the use of workflow and AI to power things like PDF remediation. This is a fantastic area where PDFs are very, very, they have no structure inherently, and so they're very inaccessible to screen reader users. And what we can now do is we can upload a PDF into the workflow and use AI to tag the document automatically in a number of minutes, make sure that the document has a heading structure, that all the images have alt texts, that there's a reading order, that the tables are identified, that there's a table of contents. And we can take an average document, which is 10% accessible, so it's really inaccessible for screen reader users, to like an 80-90% accessibility in a couple of minutes. And so I'd really encourage you to look at that. The AI PDF remediation has completely broken the sort of time, cost, quality triangle. It used to take a day or more for a professional remediator to remediate a PDF, but now we can do it using automation and AI in a number of minutes. And of course, you can do that at scale. So if you've got 1,000 PDFs, those can be done in a couple of days. And the impact in terms of that, in terms of your user experience, of your compliance, is phenomenal. So I'd really encourage you to consider looking at the PDF AI accessibility remediation. You can do the same thing for videos as well. We've covered a lot of topics there, and coming up to half an hour on that. I hope that this has been of use and interesting to you. We do offer a free web estate analysis consultancy and report for you. Would love to hear from you. If you find this would be useful for your organization, I'd love to hear from you. Please do get in touch. You can write to me, Gavin at littleforest.co.uk, and I'm the managing director here. Myself and my team will get you a report within a couple of days. We'll set up a call with you. We'll go through that report. We'll show you all the websites that you actually own, and we'll walk you through and answer your questions around, how to tackle this massive web estate that you've just discovered. So please do get in touch. My email is, I'll just write it into here, Gavin at littleforest.co.uk. Please do get in touch. We'd love to give you a free report on your web estate. Thank you for your time today, and I look forward to hearing from you soon.